mention but a few. The first ever Chief Justice appointed under the Fourth Republic was Mr. Justice Philip Akufu. He was a holdover Chief Justice from the PNDC era. His appointment as the first Chief Justice under the Fourth Republic was made and continued by Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. The Chief Justice in Ghana is also the President of the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, which presides over all constitutional matters. The learned Justice Philip Akufu will be remembered for the 31st December case, in which the Supreme Court ruled by a 5-4 decision that J.J. Rawlings' 31st December will not be celebrated as a public holiday. Unfortunately, the learned Chief Justice voted with the minority in that particular decision. The decision of the court also offended the J.J. Rawlings government. So Justice Philip Akufu was succeeded by Justice Aban. Historically, Chief Justice Aban was known for taking a firm position as Electoral Commissioner to stick with the results of a 1970s referendum organized by the Kutu Achampong military junta to convert Ghana into a union government of military and civilian actors. The professional bodies of the day, the Ghana Bar Association, the Ghana Medical Association, and other professional bodies and students from the National Union of Ghana Students campaigned across the country for a no vote. Justice Abana's Electoral Commission had to flee for his life because the military junta wanted him to announce a verdict for a yes vote. The rest of the story, as they say, is history. So it was with such high reputation that Justice Aban came to the seat as the Chief Justice of the Republic on 22nd February 1996, the day after P.A.N.K. Akufu retired. Justice Aban was also appointed by J.J. Rawlings in his first term as constitutional president. Justice Aban's tenure did not see as much activity at the Supreme Court on constitutional issues as did the 4 years before him, because at this time, the opposition New Patriotic Party had joined Parliament in 1997. Parliament thus became the forum for political discussion. J.H. Mensah, the minority leader, however, took out a writ at the Supreme Court during Justice Aban's time. Led by his lawyer, Nana Akufo-Addo, the two of them challenged the idea that former ministers of the immediate past presidential term did not need to appear before Parliament if the president who had been re-elected for a second term had wanted them to continue in the same portfolios that they held. So, for instance, Mr. Richard Kwame Pepra was finance minister under Rawlings' first term. J.J. Rawlings won a second term in 1996 and wanted Kwame Pepra to continue as finance minister. The position of the NDC was that in such circumstances, Kwame Pepra need not appear before Parliament's appointment committee. So, J.H. Mensah and his lawyer sued in what is now famously called J.H. Mensah versus the Attorney General. Akufo-Addo won the case for J.H. Mensah. Justice Aban did not sit, but he empaneled Justice Akins, Charles Hay from Benjamin, Justice Zampia, and Justice Acquah and Sophia Akufu, who is today the incumbent Chief Justice. Justice Aban was also the Chief Justice when the Supreme Court decided in the year 2000 that only photo ID cards should be used as identification cards for election 2020. That was thought to be a victory for democracy. Justice Aban it was, who then swore in President Kufuor in January 2001.
In the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
That
a few months later, after swearing in President Kufuor to be president, it was reported that a distinguished judge was unwell. He retired voluntarily and Justice Wiredu was appointed Chief Justice by President Kufuor sometime in 2001. Justice Wiredu came to the seat with a noble desire to cure the constitutional defect that gave no upper limit to the justices of the Supreme Court. That is to say, while the U.S. Federal Supreme Court had a maximum limit of 9 judges, all of whom sat on every constitutional case, in Ghana there was no upper limit. Sometimes the judges were 11, sometimes they were 9. Now we have 15, and it could be 20, 22, or any other number. So to cure this defect, Justice Wiredu decided by a practice direction that all Supreme Court judges, including himself, will sit on any and every constitutional matter, so that Supreme Court judges appointed by the NDC and Supreme Court judges appointed by the NPP will all sit on every constitutional matter, even if there were 11 of them. Then came the first opportunity to apply this practice direction. It was a case in which Chachu Chikata, a lawyer, had challenged the establishment of the so-called fast-track courts. Mr. Chikata was of the view that the fast-track courts were unconstitutional and that they had been created to railroad the cases of political opponents of Mr. Kufuor and to jail them quickly by ignoring the rules of justice. So Chief Justice Wiredu empaneled himself and all the judges of the Supreme Court. Chachu Chikata won the Supreme Court verdict by a 5-4 decision. Justice Wiredu voted with a minority of 4. Pandemonium broke. The Attorney General Nana Akufo-Addo was unhappy. He held a press conference where he disagreed with the majority decision and indicated that he will appeal the decision, setting the stage for a Supreme Court review. There were 10 Supreme Court justices at the time. One of them was unwell, so couldn't sit for the case, so 9 of them sat. According to the practice direction, all of the 10 had to sit if there was a review, and because 10 was an even number, President Kufuor was invited to appoint another judge to make it the odd number of 11. So 11 justices were ready for the review. The new 2 joined the old 4. The old 5 stuck together. So the verdict was 6-5 against Chachu Chikata. The original decision of the Supreme Court of 9 had been overturned on a review. The fast-track court stood. Chachu was tried for causing financial loss to the state. He was convicted and jailed, later pardoned by President Kufuor, but eventually mounted a successful appeal against his conviction at the Court of Appeal. So today, Mr. Chikata is not an ex-convict. So that was the eventful part of Justice Wiredu's tenure as Chief Justice. The practice direction that every Supreme Court judge must sit has been abolished, and the status quo ante was restored. The Chief Justice will now empanel judges for each Supreme Court case, and the Chief Justice himself or herself may decide to sit or not. Justice Wiredu retired on 19th June 2003, and Justice Acquah, who actually led the majority opinion of the Supreme Court reviewed in the Chachu case, became the new Chief Justice, also appointed by President Kufuor, and he was appointed on the 4th of July 2003. Unfortunately, Justice Kingsley Acquah became the first Chief Justice to die in office sometime in 2007. That paved the way for President Kufuor to make history. He appointed to the seat the first female Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. So, enter Chief Justice Georgina Wood. One of the earliest tension-packed responsibilities for the new Lady Chief Justice was to see the election of 2008 go to a close contest with some legal gymnastics in the background. Eventually, she was called upon to swear in the winner, Professor J.E.A. Mills. Then came election 2012. Controversy struck after the losing candidate did not accept the results and instead decided to file an election petition at the Supreme Court before Chief Justice Georgina Wood and the rest of the Supreme Court judges. Justice Georgina Wood had to empanel the court to hear the election petition at the end of December 2012. She also had to prepare to swear in the new president whose election was being challenged and whose swearing in had been boycotted by the entire opposition and the losing candidate. So what did Georgina Wood actually do? She did both. She empaneled the courts to hear the election petition, and she also proceeded to the Independence Square on the 7th of January to swear in President Mahama. So then came the biggest test for Justice Georgina Wood. She did take 2 major defining steps. One was unpopular with a large majority of lawyers within Ghana, but the other was popular with the general public and has had far-reaching consequences.
And I hope you forgive me for dwelling on this. Her decision to broadcast the proceedings of the celebrated election petition, in which I was plaintiff, together with the Vice President and our late lamented colleague, Tanka Obecha Binamti, was an important moment in our nation's political evolution. It exposed the vagaries of our electoral system and compelled greater vigilance on the part of the activists of my party, which undoubtedly helped us achieve the famous victory of 7th December 2016.
The other matter that was unpopular with lawyers was that Georgina Wood did not empanel herself for the election petition. Therefore, on an important matter like the election petition, Ghanaians did not get to know the legal position of the head of the judiciary. The lawyers were unhappy, but the live coverage thrilled everyone. So then came Justice Sophia Akufu, another female to become the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, appointed by President Akufo-Addo. Today, Justice Sophia Akufu has run her full tenure, and this story is about who becomes the next Chief Justice of Ghana, to be appointed either in the next few days, in the next few months, but certainly before January 2020.
Recommended that in future the rules should be tightened such that only the party to the election and the Electoral Commission should be made respondents.
The man you just heard is Justice Jones Doche. He is one of the two giant contenders that President Akufo-Addo will be considering to replace Sophia Akufu. The other one is Justice Eni Yeboah. Justice Doche is 2 years ahead of Justice Eni Yeboah by seniority at the bar. However, they were all appointed to the Supreme Court on 11 June 2008, nominated by President Kufuor. This matter would obviously be a difficult decision for President Akufo-Addo, but it is President Akufo-Addo who is more than sufficiently endowed to make such a difficult decision. After all, he's been at the bar for 40 years, and he's the first president who has come to the presidency from an active practice at the bar, before the Supreme Court, before the Court of Appeal, and before the High Court. So this is his decision to make. If you look at it that way, then the most important case that has affected Akufo-Addo's legal and political life will be the election petition. And both judges, Jones Doche and Eni Yeboah, sat at the election petition and delivered their verdicts. In fact, President Akufo-Addo actually quoted Justice Jones Doche in his concession. Getting further into the case, we realized that Justice Jones Doche, in his ruling, nullified all the votes on the pink sheet that had not been signed, and also said all the votes out of overvoting should be discarded. He said further that after the nullification and the discarding, if neither candidate had won 50% plus one, there should be a rerun between President Mahama and President Akufo-Addo. That's what Jones Doche said. Hear what Eni Yeboah said. He said, and I quote, "I will therefore grant the relief 1 in view of the evidence led and decline to grant relief 2. I, however, as consequential order the second respondent, that is the Electoral Commission, to organize an election to elect a president, as I cannot rely on an election which was seriously fraught with the malpractices, irregularities, and statutory violations proved in this petition, to declare the first petitioner as having been duly elected," unquote. Justice Eni Yeboah was therefore saying that the malpractices, the violations had all been proved in the petition, and it was therefore impossible for him to declare President Mahama as validly elected. Thus, most of the MPP lawyers support Justice Eni Yeboah to become the next Chief Justice. They, the MPP lawyers, must be putting a lot of pressure on President Akufo-Addo, who is the sole decision maker in this matter. However, it is believed that influential cousin of the president, lawyer Gabi Asare-Daku, Attorney General Gloria Ekufu, outgoing Chief Justice Sophia Akufu, and a few others within the close circle of Akufo-Addo have a soft spot for Justice Jones Doche. But the charge from the MPP lawyers is led by equally influential people: Secretary to the President Nana Asante Bedieto, Minister for Works and Housing Atacha, lawyer Philip Addison, the lead counsel in the election petition, and many more MPP lawyers within government are supporting Justice Eni Yeboah. It is reported that Deputy Attorney General Godfrey Dame will most likely side with the MPP lawyers to throw his weight behind Justice Akua, even though he has very close relations with Justice Jones Doche as well. So what's the odds saying? We think that is a 2-1 for Justice Akua to be named the next Chief Justice of Ghana, and it is a 3-1 for Justice Jones Doche to be named the next Chief Justice of Ghana. Good luck to both men, and also fare thee well, Justice Sophia Akufu. We shall always remember and maintain the high standards that you advocated for new lawyers. And yes, Justice Sophia Akufu, yes, we remember. Our girls have taken your advice. They will wait and buy their own iPhones.
Yourself to some dirty old man for an iPhone or for any type of phone. It is a tool, that's all. One day you will own, you'll be able to buy one if you are patient and you do not throw away your virtue.
George, who the hell do you think you are? Foolishness. We pay you. Master, I don't want any foolish idiot to text me later. Who the hell is Sam George? I say, who the hell is that fool? I'm ready for you any day. Foolish man. Ube who say, a drop you, baby. Me say, remember we drag at them. Me say, ube wrong what's not from. Me, I'm telling you that. If somebody thinks I'm sitting here because of Mahama, then you are stupidly stupid. I'm telling you. You can call your Mahama and ask him. And if John Mahama thinks I'm sitting here because of him, he is thinking stupidly. Oh, men shebia honte. Akonyebia to say toilet. Oh, you hine se bedi enim na musomra so say you se be cansem man puntumra abrabom. Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Ah? Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Wo e na wo ma santemai say otufo. Wo na wo say santemai o tom. E bi o mon kan kire wo. Asantemai say e ye wo otufo na otufo te wo. Na yesi sebio wo na nanom mo baaye no sa nkwase asem we komo so ankenda akonwa kase we enkeda ho mo so nsemfo so dodo ye bu akonwa nim tia na ye so nyoma so otufo. You have limited power. You have limited power. Asante is nothing. See 2 million asante biem 2 million ni menhia biem Mumpaya wo we are singing you show what Masarai Bebediza when the Corinthians on Nimbia woman on to San Bayare and Williams on us on the banners were bought the most a day or so on teaching we need quite a fear to say Mire editing Quasia some TikTok was Danka William while Bompire wo we are singing at the Brofabo on to San Bayare. Now what you mean Mensa table I got in a court a bank board so we see cat tram or the Namgana or so on Ibo for curtains Rebel or Bofus and one the nice Egyptian pen. Or the Quasia for the did music in a phantom and or catch them say or someone ayaza afawa oba no phone chemi and why can see a chemi I said if Somalia a crobia their friend in Kinkinsu and the other buy and the Ottawa and Afono somewhere Jimmy Arimi Yahweh Eddie Chief Imam Office Dechi and all your corruption in Juma ho because of such Chief Imam in Yini Chief Imam on her TV Chief Imam on tier radio and Arimi Yahweh and about just a peg and in Quasia politics normally Chief Imam Office here.
Taylor in the country. Unfortunately, I'm not an immigration officer, and so I mean, how do you expect? I mean, I'm not an immigration officer. I mean, for those who act, take necessary steps. Find out from immigration, unless the person did not come through lawful borders. So some of these are things causing the national discourse.
Every day is packed with its own surprises. You never know which thrill is around the corner.
Feel good. Feel good.
Or how it will play out. There's a sense of excitement.
Did our plane just stop? Another cash out.
That adds a little magic to my everyday.
Feels like a party tonight.
iPhone papa ye wo homa
so open iPhones accessories papa dia menhwe baby a
me Akwa ba EBA phones and accessories.
Sebani EBA yeton iPhones any ho accessories. iPhone 50 XL cost 16 Pro Max. Accessories ye wo charger, AirPods any iPhone ho akade nyina. Yanoma ye ni sikapudu e de beto iPhone. Say ya nkwankwe, boja and na say abon adwuma ye phone nyina. For 40% beji iPhone bia ope. Na ni aka no wo de bosome miensa. Etua ne nkakra. E kwan ya obefa so de achi ani. Dial *713*5571#. Oba, sheno so se wo de wo Ghana card. Eni nia e kire se wo ye adwuma. Hwehwe ye kire kwan e wo circle mo. Eni tip tolling ye ni modern photos enchen ho a. Afein so, se wo ba American Mall, ye ni odo rights eni di nhwani. Kuma senso ye wo edum Central Prisons runabout ejekum abunsan ni mo. Freyen e wo numbers na ebu screen ni so no. EBA phones, no hassle cra.
Brush, 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 brush your teeth. Brush, 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 2 times a day. Brush with Kel-Kit.
Hello, my friends. My name is Kel-Kit toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Makes your teeth stronger, chicky whiter, chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Kel-Kit. Happy smile.
I'm here at Mycom JA Limited to show you the Promethean Active Panel, the ultimate tool for corporate institutions, hospitals, schools, and your home. With its crystal clear 4K display and an unbreakable screen with an ultra responsive touch technology. This isn't just a screen, it's a game changer. For corporate institutions and in schools, this active panel can be used for Zoom meetings and PowerPoint presentation. And your homes are not left behind. You can use it to watch all your favorite programs by just connecting to a Fire Stick, and you can get access to channels like Netflix and Amazon, and voila, you are in there. At Mycom JA Limited, we provide you with the best quality products from the United States of America with 1-year warranty. You can get an active panel at a discounted price of 18,000 Ghana cedi only, and it comes with a Fire Stick, a webcam, and a microsystem. You can locate us at Chado Container behind the Trade Fair. Visit Mycom JA Limited today and elevate your tech.
Are you a headmaster, headmistress, parent, teacher, or an educator looking for high-quality textbooks for preschool, primary, and junior high school students? Look no further than Advocate Publishing Company. Advocate Publishing Company is a leading publisher of educational materials in Ghana that publishes very engaging, interactive, and comprehensive textbooks that meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Our textbooks are thoroughly published to make learning fun and easy. They are also designed to stimulate critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity in students. Make Advocate Publishing your preferred choice for all your educational needs. Explore our range of textbooks and educational resources. Visit us at the old GNTC yard near Kingsway, Accra. You can contact us on 0503 786 776 or 02408 06354. Also 0531 600360, and connect with us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Advo Publishing. Don't settle for less. Choose the best. Advocate Publishing Company, empowering young minds one textbook at a time. Think in publishing, think Advocate Publishing.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson, some more.
Me didn't tum. Mr. Freddy Calico just call me cockroach. Now, Mr. Freddy once now. Hey, is that you? Improve car. Yeah. Captain Mosquito, double the action. Me did Sasso spray. Mr. Freddy Sasso quell. Yeah, go to my Sasso.
Come tum preko.
Hey, pay right, borehole drilling.
Hey, a Japan reject for Abama and show some ye dewa. Pay reject a darumanti, if ye be a money shoe, ain't so young crankre, a jumaku, in swan sorry, Namupe and should did you may be a dear. Make out for pay reject the amount, any pay reject, Wama quadratic our borehole drilling, water purification, any bibiada a fat in shoe, Netier, pay reject in Kwane borehole drilling company, Wotu Somawa, or San Super a brano, a babesha sending sonity, and Sayo, Wama Sanso de Chesson Kokra, a Guponoswa, Yede Babe Bo Amosika Sem Piano Alcoye. Hey, won't pay when now per day. With them, call them now. Flying, I was 0240 217253 0240 217253. Pay right GH, since so young Quadia, any ye maunkwa.
Buy affordable service plots and lands from estate masters. Currently selling our Nest Cottage, located at the newly proposed Airport City, with a starting price of 25,000 Ghana cedis. We also have Palm Hills, located at Panfukro in the Gomwa East District, also with a starting price of 15,000 Ghana cedis. Available also is Coastal Park in Lakpleku, which is a 15-minute drive from the Ngo Senior High School, having a starting price of 55,000 Ghana cedis. You will receive a free site plan with indenture once you successfully purchase a land from us. For any enquiries, contact the numbers provided. Estate Masters, your most preferred estate partner.
George, who the hell do you think you are? Foolishness. We pay you. Master, I don't want any foolish idiot to text me later. Who the hell is Sam George? I say, who the hell is that fool? I'm ready for you any day. Foolish man. Ube who say, a drop you, baby. Me remember we drag at them. Me say, ube wrong what's not from. Me, I'm telling you that. If somebody thinks I'm sitting here because of Mahama, then you are You are stupidly stupid. I'm telling you. You can call your Mahama and ask him. And if John Mahama thinks I'm sitting here because of him, he is taking stupidly. Akonyabia to say toilet. Oh, you hine se bedi enim na musomra eso ase you se be kansam mampuntumra abrabom. Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Ah? Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Wo na wo ma santemai say otufo. Wo na wo say santemai o tom. Obi o mon kan kire wo. Asantemai say e wo otufo na otufo te wo. Na yesi sebio wo na nanom mo baaye no. Sa nkwase asem we komo so ankende akonwa kase we enkeda ho. Most son fun sododo. You book on your name tia, na yeso nyoma so. Otufo, you have limited power. You have limited power. Asante is nothing. See, 2 million Asante biem. 2 million ni menshia biem. Ni mumpaya wo wi asinyina ye showa masarai. Bebediza when the Corinthians onimdia wo nyina ontumi san bayare. Ankan Williams. Ono so ne ba no so aboda mo se den osoro na atichen. We ni kwate fia te se mre. Edidim kwasi asem on TikTok was Danka William wa bompa ye wo wiase nyina de brofo abo ontumi san ba yare na mo mogibigimi ara mensa otabo agotena court a bank board so we wie sika tetram o de nam Ghana osoro na o hye Igbo curtains reverend obofo se hwanhwan ne nine say Egyptian pen o de kwasi afo mu de chi wagigi mu sika nyina koto phantom and o ka kire mu se osom no e ya azan afa wa oba no fon chen mi o and wa kese chen mi I said if Somalia ekuro bia de fe no enkinkensu and de baaye and otowa hwanafo no some Jimmy Arimi Yawe edidi chief imam office de chi e na oye corruption edwuma ho because on say chief imam nyini chief imam on TV chief imam on tie radio and Arimi Yawe na bodwe se peg and enkwase politics na on chief imam office ne ye.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of the show. It's a Thursday casual for Good Evening Ghana, but today it is not a very good Thursday because 24th July is usually not a good day for any Ghanaian who is interested in politics or any Ghanaian for that matter. It's 13 years ago since the untimely death of Professor John Evans Atta Mills. At the time, he passed President of the Republic of Ghana, and everyone is sharing their stories today about how they heard about the Mills' death. Of course, as it is a Tuesday, it's a Thursday today. It was a Tuesday on that occasion, and so we had Good Evening Ghana. We had already set up our agenda for the show, and I've told this story a few times. We had already set up our agenda for the show when we were told that Professor Mills had died. The story was broke by CTFM's Richard Sky. Later on, we had the information on Joy FM with Jifa Bampo talking about it. They still bring very negative, nostalgic feelings to everyone when you remember that on a certain Tuesday, whilst you were very active about your work, news came in that the president, who had been unwell, as was known by many, had actually passed. Let's get back to 13 years ago and how Good Evening Ghana captured the death of Professor John Evans Atta Mills. This is how it was.
Received a statement, very brief, a statement from the President's Chief of Staff saying this was an untimely and sudden death, that John Atta Mills at the age of 68 fell ill and died just a few hours after being admitted at number 37 Military Hospital in Ghana. We expect him to get...
John Dramani Mahama is Africa's newest leader. He was sworn in just hours after the announcement of the death of his predecessor, Ghanaian President John Atta Mills. The presidential office said he died in hospital in the capital Accra, but provided no other details.
And it is with a very heavy heart that we present tonight's edition of Good Evening Ghana. I'm sure that you already are well aware of the very, very terrible news that has engulfed our country Earlier this afternoon, it was reported on radio and on Metro TV News that President John Evans Atta Mills had died after a short illness at the 37 Military Hospital. Tonight, our show is dedicated to paying tribute to the learned professor, former vice president of our country, and also now, indeed, a former president of Ghana.
Professor Music NDC Yama Unantio. Professor Mills, Yebeka Kabuda, Nyamiva Wunko, Professor Mills, Nyamiva Wunko, Dachi Yebishimo, Nyamiva Wunko, Professor Mills, Nyamiva Wunko, Atsunje, Yebishimo, Professor Mills.
What would be that? What's with that? Sorry about the photographs, and that was the Professor Mills event. Well, was it the event? Was how we captured it. Let's get onto the touch screen now and look to start the edition for today. Look at the people who attended the 13th anniversary of the death of Professor Mills, which was also led by President John Dramani Mahama. Here is Vice President. No, this is the lecture. The event. This is at the lecture. Jenano Pukwajman and Charlotte Osei, who delivered the lecture at the UPSA yesterday. This is Alex Segbefia and Nana Oyelitha and Charlotte Osei. Julius Debra, the Chief of Staff, also spoke. He gave an interesting story. Alex Segbefia of the Office of the Vice President. He was a Deputy Chief of Staff to Professor Mills. He also spoke at the event. This is a long shot of all the dignitaries there. You see in the Prosper Bani, who is National Security Advisor, Johnson Asedun Ketia, who is Chairman of the party, Alban Sumanu Kingsford Bagbin, who is the Speaker of Parliament, Julius Deborah, who is the Chief of Staff, Vice President Jenano Pokwajiman, the Speaker for the day, Charlotte Osei, all of them lined up there. This is Faustina Nelson, Madame Sati Okran, and some of the important dignitaries who showed up over there. This is Mr. Enchu Jemfi, a stalwart of the NDC, and this is Mr. Atua Hoy. Of course, everyone knows Atua Hoy, and Professor Jenano Pokwajiman. All of them at the lecture yesterday, very well attended at the UPSA auditorium, where many things have been happening these days. Very well built auditorium by the UPSA. These are the photographs that we have for the event. We all remember Professor Mills fondly remember Professor Mills. Now, let's get to first things first. And yeah, this is the photographs I was looking for. This is the event this morning where Professor John Dramani Mahama, the president, headlined the wreath-laying ceremony at the Asumdue Park. And here you have Julius Deborah, the Chief of Staff, John Dramani Mahama, and I believe the Vice President, Professor Jenano Pokwajiman. President Mahama spoke about John Evans Atta Mills. He led the wreath laying here with the Vice President proceeding to lay the wreath. These are the pictures from today's event at the Asumdue Park near the castle in Osu. Rest in peace, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, fondly remembered by all Ghanaians and especially the NDC folk. This is the vehicle that carried the mortal remains of the late professor of law, a tax expert, and eventually president of Ghana. He was elected in 2008 after one of the fiercely contested elections of the Fourth Republic. The difference in two candidates after 10 million votes was just in the 20s of thousands, and Professor Mills was declared the winner of that closely fought election. Here he was in 2012, having served just 2 years into his term. I can identify Mahama Yariga over there. In those days, he was a spokesperson of President Mills. Now he is the majority leader in Parliament. How Professor Mills will be delighted to see Mahama Yariga, his former spokesperson, as a leader of Parliament. And there you are. This was the scene at the forecourt of the State House where the funeral occurred. Thousands and thousands of mourners thronged the State House on that fateful day of the funeral after the learned professor had passed on 24th July 2012. Here is Aban Bagbin taking the wreath today. To lay it with him is Rickett Hagen, one of the closest friends of Professor Mills. Is there any other set of photographs? Okay, this is Irabna Aban, the new member of Parliament from Ablekuma, who arrived in Parliament today. John Dramani Mahama, the president, Jenano Pokwajiman, the vice president, all of them proceeding to lay the wreath. The clergy who led the prayer session at the Asumdue Park, Nilante Vanderpoy, also in the background over there. Yes, so this is what happened today. So many things happened today, and I'm not too sure why the NDC chose 24th July for Kaisel Atoforsen, the Minister for Finance, to read the budget on the day that Professor Mills' celebration anniversary was on. Well, Atoforsen's budget will take time to explore it. Gideon Boako and co are all looking at it. So next week we're going to have explosive conversations about the budget. I've been watching my phone just before coming onto the studio, and I see that the minister is in Joy FM. I'm very happy that he goes to a media house to defend his budget. He's in Joy FM and he's on the attached screen with Evans Mensah. I was looking at glimpses of that one. I think they are done now. So this is what Atoforsen brought to Parliament. It says the Ministry of Finance has issued commitment authorization for the following road infrastructure projects under the Big Push program. They're going to have construction of a new bridge on the Oti River Dambai, rehabilitation of Wa Han Road, upgrading of Tumu Hamle Road, upgrading of Tumu Han Laura Road, reconstruction of Navrongo, rehabilitation of Techiman, rehabilitation of Winchi, construction of this. He has 32. Viewers, I can assure you, and I hope I'm wrong, but I can almost suspect. But next year when we come and do the mid-year budget, some of these will reappear. And they will reappear and they will say that construction of new bridge, Oti River, Mr. Speaker, and they will say, yeah. It was in 2001 that Kwesi Pratt identified that the Bole Bamboy Road in the budget had been in the budget from 1996. Every year, the Minister of Finance says, Mr. Speaker, the Bole Bamboy Road will be done. And they say, yeah, and it was showing up every year. So all of these things that he's listed, I pray that by the time we come for next year's budget, he would have achieved all of them. But I suspect he wouldn't. And they will re-list them again, that this is what the Ministry of Finance is going to do. Sometimes that's what happens, and I'm hoping that civil society and the researchers will keep the minister on his toes, the minority in parliament will keep the minister on his toes and keep him to strict proof of some of these things that he says he's going to do. Sometimes also, it can get more ridiculous than that. Sometimes, some of the things that they list has already been done. It gets that ridiculous. It can get that ridiculous. So let's pray and hope that this is not like that. Let me look and mention to everyone, so that wherever you are, you can see that your road is being looked at by the government. So there's rehabilitation of Techiman in Koranza Wenchi Road. There's rehabilitation of Wenchi Solar, construction of Sunyani Outer Roads, construction of Kumasi Outer Ring Road, rehabilitation of Nankpanduri Road, rehabilitation of Dodu Pepeso in Kwanta Road, rehabilitation of Atimpoku Asikuma Junction Road, rehabilitation of Asikuma Junction, another road, reconstruction of whole roads, upgrading of Akosombo, Jatkiti Road, upgrading of Asikuma to Enum Road, a lot of Eastern region projects I can see. Upgrading of Adome Bridge to Akwamufie Road, that's Eastern region. Rehabilitation of Whole Potoi Road, Volta region. Rehabilitation of Potoi Road, Volta region. Rehabilitation of Afian Denyuga Peyu Road, Volta region. Rehabilitation of Peyi Aflao Road, Volta region. Dualization of Winneba Mankesim Road, Central region. Dualization of Cape Coast Takrady Road, Central and Western region. Rehabilitation of Mankesim, Ejumako, Breman, Esikuma, Agona, Swedru Road, that includes Atoforson's constituency and Ofosu Kwache's constituency, Central region. Rehabilitation of Tema Aflao Road, Greater Accra and Eastern and Volta region. Reconstruction of Dodowa Afenya Dowenya Road, that's Greater Accra region. Upgrade of Oyibi Apollonia Afenya Road, Greater Accra region. Construction of Inche Elubu, Western region. Construction of Dadieso Akontombra Road, Western region. Upgrading of Ejufua Osei Kojo Krom Road, I believe Western region. Upgrading of Enchi and Kujuru Peki Road, that is Western region. Upgrading of Bediako Junction, Camp 15, Sefi Adabo Krom, and that's also Western region. So which region didn't get some? Let's see. There's Upper East. Bolga is where I'm not seeing anything. That's Upper East region. Bolga, I'm not seeing anything yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's widely covered. Greater Accra and Eastern seems to have a significant part of road construction being done. Okay. Kesel Atuforsen gave the budget. But before he could do that, the minority walked out of parliament. They didn't just walk to stay outside. They had a mission. They walked out of parliament and found themselves at the office of the president at Jubilee House to present a petition to the president. Let's see whether we can capture some of the scenes of the minority in parliament today going away to give petition. They also went to the head of the diplomatic corps and they also went to the Cordial office. Their petition was in twofold. They were concerned about the what they call violence, electoral violence, making reference to Ablekuma North just recently passed elections. And they also were concerned about the judiciary. Can we see some of the videos if we have it? Oh yes, there you go. There you go. That's the MPs leaving Parliament. Whilst Kesel Atuforsen was beginning his process, that's Honorable Bafuewa, who comes to our studio sometimes. You can see in Team Fojo, Al Hassan Tampoli. Charlie, these guys, they have Vimo. So this is Jerry Ahmed. And then you see the ladies as well. Oh, the cameraman is not stable. Why is he in Jerry Ahmed's head? That's Jerry Ahmed there leading his group. They were leaving the parliament dressed in black, as I'm sure they were told to do. And yeah, you see more members of parliament there. Kofi Mafo, I saw him in a flash. Yeah, there he is. Kofi Mafo over there is Achim Suedru member of parliament. This is Colonel Damois from the Bono Hafo region. Kofi Mafo over there again. Colonel Damois in your shot. Bafo comes from behind. And then Jerry Ahmed and his team. Okay, there they go. All of them in black, appearing that they are not happy with something. And they are showing, what is on the placard they are showing? They are showing something that I can't read very well. Hassan Tampuli's own could be clear. What's he saying? Okay, so they left Parliament whilst Kaysel Atoforsen was delivering his address. Yeah, so there you have it. Stop the violence is what they've written. Stop the violence. This is a great photograph on the TV here. We borrowed it from Channel 1 TV. That's a good photograph. So this is where they went to Jubilee House. Now here are some of the photographs. This is Dominic Nitiwul. This is Arnaud Dompré. And they were in Jubilee House to present the petition to the government. And they were here waiting for the senior officers of Jubilee House to come out and receive the petition. All of this was happening whilst Kaysel Atoforsen was speaking and addressing Vincent Asifua, the member of parliament for Tafo. There you see in your shot. That's very interesting, isn't it? This is Gideon Boako, and so Gideon Boako of Dr. Bawumia's camp and Stika of Kennedy Japan's camp got together to take a photograph, perhaps to show that there is unity in the MPP fight towards the presidential flag bearer elections of January 31. Gideon Boako here, we are expecting him in the studio sometime soon to come and discuss Kaysel Atoforsen's budget, and we'll have a lot of conversation with him when that kind of time comes. You know, MPs usually want to study the budget in great detail, and they want to hear some of the commentary from the Minister of Finance thereafter. They will all show up to talk about it. Stika also is into finance and economics. So far, he's a former Minister of State, Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Finance. Yeah, so they had a good photograph together. That's interesting, isn't it? Okay. So they were met by, do you have videos of that? By the Chief of Staff himself and Deputy Chief of Staff. Let's see how the petition was received at the Jubilee House earlier today. Should I talk over it? All right. So this is Stan Dogbe in your shot I saw, and Julius Debra, the Chief of Staff. Nana Oyelitha in the cloth to the left-hand side of your screen. She's a Deputy Chief of Staff, and she was there to receive the petition. Is there a sound that we should pick up?
And we are here on a very simple mission. And I have known you as a politician. I have known your political field, led NDC, and a lot of work. I'm saying that you've been part of the building of this democracy. A few days ago, we had a rerun of Ablekuma North election. Amidst all the challenges, and we raised the matter severally in Parliament to resolve the EC out of frustration.
Eric, how did we get the vision? How did we get it?
The EC out of frustration.
Yes, how are you pushing?
As I was saying, we have built our democracy to a very admirable point. The Chief of Staff not to bore you with words. Ghana is seen as a big and a fledgling democracy. We think that we have contributed hugely. The two main traditions, the MPP and the NDC, both have contributed hugely to building our democracy to the point where we are. The recently held rerun 19 polling stations birthed a lot of issues. I won't try to unpack them here, but a lot of issues that certainly needs our attention of all the variables involved in the political field, particularly government, because a lot of responsibility is on your head. You are in total control of the security of the state. So we are here to present the petition, basically on two important matters. The violence that occurred at the rerun of the North election, and we are upbeat about subsequent elections to be held in our country. We are also worried about Galamsey. And it was one of your messages that you trumpeted with all the promise, rightly or wrongly. Now it's getting out of hand. And our respected Chief of Staff, you are an Easterner. If you are traveling between Enyinim and Nkoko, now the Galamseys are coming on the highway. We are told our water bodies are polluted all over. And even farm products, it's been reported that they've discovered heavy metals in foodstuff from the farm. I think in summary, we are here to present this petition and to appeal for your patriotic intervention in this matter. We have confidence in you. We believe you will act. Now, we hear you have 2/3 majority in Parliament. We heard that. But you also need a minority in Parliament to function. Now, if we don't hear anything, and it is business as usual, it is absolute silence, we are not going to hear anything. This is just the beginning of a series of actions we are going to stage in this country. But we won't do anything out of malice to undermine your governance. But as long as the threat of electoral violence keeps rearing its head, and our authorities seem to be at their wit's end, we'll continue to bring these matters into our attention until it is dealt with. So for and on behalf of the entire minority caucus, and by the way, Chief of Staff, our real name is the Mighty Minority. So we present this petition, I present this petition for and on behalf of the entire, respectfully, the entire minority. And we have also attempted, I'm sure the seat of government, you have all the videos of the violence, but we've also, just for the benefit of doubt, recording of footages of the violence that reportedly occurred. We are presenting this to you, through you, to His Excellency the President. We are confident that the dutiful actions will be taken as it should. Yes, of course.
So, thank you very much. So, I've received your petition on behalf of staff and the President. We'll do what to present it to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was the minority walking out of the budget presentation to do another job, presenting a petition to the president about what they think is some of the ongoings in the country that they don't like. For instance, the violence at Ablekuma, and also the Chief Justice problem. Now, the Catholic Bishops' Conference also set up a press release that was used by media on Tuesday. The National Catholic Secretariat, Office of the President of the Catholic Secretariat, and is entitled Statement by Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference on Electoral Violence and Suspension of the Chief Justice. It reads as follows. We, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, have followed recent developments in our beloved nation with profound concern. As spiritual leaders and responsible citizens, mindful of our collective duty to uphold justice, peace, and integrity of democratic governance, we feel compelled to share these reflections with the people of Ghana. True democracy transcends the periodic casting of votes. It embodies a just social order that respects the rule of law, upholds the intrinsic dignity of every human person, and guarantees citizens the right to participate meaningfully in shaping our national destiny. At the heart of this vision lies the sanctity of the ballot and the imperative of peaceful election. Since the promulgation of our 1992 Constitution, Ghana has rightly been celebrated for its democratic stability. Yet, this hard-earned reputation is gravely endangered whenever electoral violence surfaces, as was tragically witnessed recently in Ablekuma North constituency. We unequivocally condemn all forms of electoral violence, especially the brutalization of citizens, including journalists. Such acts constitute a gross violation of human dignity and betray the very foundations upon which our democracy stands. We therefore urge the states to initiate prompt, thorough, and transparent investigations into these incidents and ensure perpetrators are held fully accountable. Impunity corrodes public trust and fosters a culture of lawlessness. We further call upon the government to implement without delay the recommendations of previous commissions of inquiry into electoral violence, ensuring lessons learned translate into meaningful institutional reforms. We remind all political actors that elections are not a contest of might, but a platform for the exchange of ideas. We urge political parties and their supporters to exercise maximum restraint and prioritize national peace above partisan advantage, even amidst intense political competition. The Electoral Commission must sustain and deepen its stakeholder engagement efforts to bolster public confidence in electoral processes' integrity. Similarly, we urge the security services to act with professionalism, impartiality, and foresight in preventing and managing potential conflict. A healthy, functioning democracy equally demands an independent, credible judiciary, free from political interference. Justice is the indispensable cornerstone of national cohesion. Without it, grievances fester and violence finds fertile grounds. It is in this critical regard that we view the current tensions arising from the suspension of the Chief Justice. While acknowledging the necessity of due process, we caution strenuously against any action, perceived or actual, that could compromise the independence or impartiality of the judiciary. The removal of a sitting Chief Justice is a matter of profound national significance. This process must be scrupulously guided by constitutional principles, absolute procedural fairness, and a clear respect for the doctrine of separation of powers. Any precedent that appears to place the judiciary at the mercy of executive risk irreparably eroding public trust in the very institutions citizens rely upon for justice. In the light of these grave concerns, we urge all stakeholders to act with the utmost conscientiousness, safeguard both the inviolable rule of law and the dignity of the judiciary. The recent National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving convened by His Excellency the President provided a welcome moment for spiritual and civic reflection. May this now inspire a deeper, sustained national commitment to unity, reconciliation, and lasting peace. Let us, as one people, fervently renew our shared covenant to build a just, peaceful, and prosperous Ghana, a nation where every citizen finds refuge in the law and hope in our common future. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong, and is signed by the Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Jemfi, Bishop of Sunyani and President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference. Very, very poignant, very telling. The Catholic Bishops' Conference is unhappy with the processes at the Chief Justice. Now, what are we picking up from the Chief Justice situation? We understand that the process is ongoing at the Justice Gabriel Poaman Committee, the Leonard Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, and the Leonard Acting Chief Justice, Justice Bafo-Boni, here on our screen. So we understand that the matters are going on. We are checking with our lawyers the extent to which we can publish the things that are going on in there, given the in-camera situation. They are researching, they'll tell us what we can do, because we have quite a lot to say. Apparently, important people have been appearing as witnesses for Justice Tokonu. Constitutional experts have appeared before the committee as witness for Justice Tokonu. They have laid down the process of the Constitution. They've laid down the philosophy that's underpinned Article 146. They've laid all of that down to the committee. We also understand that important former Supreme Court judges have all appeared at the committee for Justice Tokonu they've come to indicate that the going on, how do they say these days? The things that are being discussed as against Justice Acquah in terms of conduct. There are other former Supreme Court justices who have appeared there, people who have had occasion to act as Chief Justice on occasion or the other. They've all come there and they are talking. We hope, as the Catholic Bishops' Conference is also hoping, that this will end up very, very well, and it will be good. It will be good for us, so that the judiciary will be able to stand very, very firm. In the light of all that, we picked up something Okoboy said. I watched Dr. Zato on the finance minister's, on the Attorney General's issue. I'll come to that in a minute. But this is what Okoboy was talking about, and we liked it. In a studio in Asempa with Obi, we're always watching Obi's program, about the suspension of the Chief Justice. Now, Okoboy is not a lawyer, so it's very interesting listening to people who are not lawyers, who are bringing the commonsensical and the social angle to this matter. This is what he said.
You see, two be no one kebia ochna one shana be count. Now, mami way, Chief Justice. One of the things I Emma and it's for be brave penasem, and it's a court 2020 no. I'm say 12-0 and I 7-0 scholar. Obi football utie sebi ase edu nketia kra oba be 2 for some no ono aso mo ko no mo nkita hwe Obi, it's sad when Obi, instead of Obi reflecting affixing the issues Obi dania ko to Obi su sad no mo dey no me my psychologist me tia o it was a way of energizing the NDC base say sebi ya lose court na I am boy, so that the base will still be energetic towards 2024. But by doing so, no, what could create situation? Ama ya 7-0. Ama say no, what's antagonizing the courts? No, only 7-0 no. So mumpe unti de biana yesa. But God is watching. If anybody tells you God plays no role in politics, it's a lie. This woman, Obi, me can't be this woman. If she goes on her knees and prays, na Obi Sebi, and Obi na tatano. I've cited the example of the 7-0. Look at some of the issues now raised here. So, or trust suggesting my president say, or recommend you Obi. Now, me recommend you me shall come. You see, when you look at some of the Nyama who cited or cancel lowering the threshold, ultimately say, well, Obi. Why yet now do that? Imagine that I say we'll deal with this person. Now I think the next step is how do we get what we need to deal with the person? But like I'm saying, Tony Blair says something very powerful for leaders, and I'll say it. I say when you become a leader, especially when the mandate you got is overwhelming, never be mistaken to assume that it is so much love. Most of the time it is expectation. And that you will make enemies along the way unknowingly. Don't spend time making more enemies deliberately. Mami way, unknowingly in the bushia, I saw your film with fear of feeling. Are there hearts that you are bringing aboard or you are losing? Obi, all I'm saying is that I will
tell you the Charlotte Osei story.
I
also had a family.
Yes. But you see, that is why Omomuka Asemeneno, me show more now. What was their position and orientation that time?
On Charlotte Osei.
Yes. You see,
who was orientation?
I say you criticize the entire Charlotte Osei.
You see,
why are you supporting?
Yes.
But I am saying
Obi, and you see, they say little drops of water make a mighty ocean.
Yes.
It is possible that Charlotte's friends, family members, and people who are not happy. That's why I quoted Tony Blair's statement. If you can avoid. Adiamuka Wasem say, in fact, Charlotte today has been given some board BBB.
Yeah. Ghana Gas board.
What does it tell you? If someone is not sympathetic or does not believe in the ideals of the NDC, would they be made the board chair of Ghana Gas? Board member. So what it tells you is that no, or your mood dear,
how?
me moderate. Me in case of this member. Me in case the ideals, the ideology. Exactly. You did know. Musu Kroma nyina said the Akufo ye ebia no kan na ebia ne okobo amitina ebia mitina as opposition member. Na no de obi ye down the line ene abetra no. Usu ufa sa kwan no so a sebi ebetimi di wa ba ebia ye wo no. Edu Charlotte so no na wo ye dede. Obi ye dede ne o say ye come but question you have to ask yourself the oye na no ohwa e boa no ana amboa no. So Obi, media, me can say the man who has the chance to make history today in this country is Justice Acquah. And that's an Ivano.
Yeah, Justice Acquah.
Obi, people have made history for the right reasons. Obi, others have made history for the wrong reasons. My prayer for him, I've said it here, I'll repeat it, that his fidelity will lie to the content of the discussions and the cases that will come there, and not to predetermined links. My prayer for him. Why? And I mentioned it here. Because those who gave him the task already have a wish. Makanda, and yeah, idea Kukum. President Oka publicly, not Kukum, say, they have to reset that whole place, starting with the woman. But my prayer with him is that, say, Okomuna content, no, Obi, content, no, or share case now, the outcome is that the woman should go. Sebi, her blood will not be on her hands.
Which blood?
But what I say, a figurative expression. I don't want your blood on my hands. It is best that they two no misuna fire. But what I say, so the point I'm making is that Obi, that man has the opportunity to make history. And fortunately or unfortunately for him, he can't choose the other option. He will definitely make one which is on the right side of history, or the other way. And I'm happy you're a lawyer. Students will come 20, 30, 100 years down the line. They will look at the Acquah report and they will use it to teach students how his fidelity to the law stood, whether it advanced the cause of the law and justice or it betrayed the law and justice. And I keep on saying, I pray for him because it is not easy when the one who gives you a task. And yeah, easy. Say nipa all small say you juma man no. Who idea of the Oshushe? And yeah, easy. I pray for him.
George, who the hell do you think you are? Foolishness. We pay you. Master, I don't want any foolish idiot to text me later. Who the hell is Sam George? I say, who the hell is that fool? I'm ready for you any day. Foolish man. Ube who say, a drop you, baby. Miss member will drag at them. Miss Ube wrong what's not from. Me, I'm telling you that. If somebody thinks I'm sitting here because of Mahama, then you are stupidly stupid. I'm telling you. You can call your Mahama and ask him. And if John Mahama thinks I'm sitting here because of him, he is thinking stupidly. Akonwa to say toilet. Oh, you hine se be di anim na musomra eso ase you se be kansam mampuntumra abrabom. Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Ah? Edian hine na yedi ni sa no. Wo e na wo ma santeman say otufo. Wo na wo say santeman o tom. Oye bi o mon kan kire wo. Asanteman say e ye wo otufo na otufo te wo. Na ye see sebio wo na nanom mo baaye no sa ankwase asem we komo so anka nda akonwa kase we enkeda ho moto so nsemfo so dodo ye bu akonwa nim tia na ye so nyoma so otufo you have limited power. You have limited power. Asante is nothing. See 2 million asante biem 2 million ni menhia biem ni mumpaye wo wiase nyina ye showa masarai bebediza ne Corinthians onimdie wo nyina ontumi san bayare Ankan Williams ono so ne ba no so aboda mo se den osora no ate chain we ni kwate fia te se mire edidi nkwasiasem on TikTok was Janka William wa bompa ye wo wiase nyina de brofo abo ontumi san ba yare na mo mogimigimi ara mensa otabo akwatena court a bank board so we wie sika tetram odenam Ghana osoro na ohye Igbo curtains Reverend Obofo se hwanhwan ne nine say Egyptian pen ode nkwasiafo bu de echi wagigi mu sika nyina koto phantom and o ka kire mo se osom no eya azan afa oba no fon chemi o and wa kese chemi I said if Somalia ekuro bi ade friend enkinkensu and ade ne baaye and otowa hwanafo no samwa jimi arimi yawe edidi chief imam office dechi and oye corruption edwuma ho because odum say chief imam nyini chief imam on TV chief imam on tier radio and arimi yawe na bodwe se peg and nkwasia politics no the chief imam office ne
Taylor in the country. Unfortunately, I'm not an immigration officer, and so I mean, how do you expect? I mean, I'm not an immigration officer. I mean, for those who act, take necessary steps. Find out from immigration, unless the person did not come through lawful borders. So some of these are things causing the national discourse.
We're expecting our budgeting.
Mempeshi, you want me yashi. Want me bibia my ya $100 or so $80, you need dollars to pay ya, me pebia crying my craminia. I don't know which my amai.
We should so gonna be no say from 17 about 10 something. I think I go for say
17, who may most can I question be mamiana. Ubenya be a mammy.
Who permits a hand?
May pebia crying man, I mean, ya, Ubeda Etimania. They call banga, please come back crying my minia. Now, I
know people are almost see they can access the dollar. I know almost Aban yard. Say never Aban soon chance on your nessa.
The view, not until I got it to Ghana, this. Now, dollar, and I didn't know my $2 $2 maybe $20 today. Jiman $1 and Minia Kronun, I didn't I call pot and twin in Yama. Or boss what to tin must be beyond what is
support for you 24 hours. So the mortgage in
24 hours and 18 muscle. 24 hours
he said the mortgage they are
24 hours and 18.
I had there the mortgage they have
Yama, a ban you be Yama and the meeting Casaba.
It's clearly first half of the year no. You can say assess performance. Maybe 1 to 10 now. Osha, President.
The MPP here now Ogusu or she send them and the also she's on the same year. On she send you to 1 million BBR. The MPP no go home and one Ogusu or to us. Me buy me who knew you be or the other. I will say.
Or can say $80. Dollar no yate so or mubutum. But I refer to war it Oba first one was say $80 so yatiti safer so yati we so cement anti so besine me to cement last for 2024 me to 104 ene 130 nti tia ya te de ma so ne sen
sisi aye the dollar ne sefa ni na na de adwuma ana ya na binum so ya te dollar so customers ne ba almost ya te sefa no so sefa no ye nte so say ama ne ma ye boko se na ya ankrofo ti fia o ka no ene sefa no betima ba fam ene dollar betima ba fam ene kira bako no na asen akosoro ana sika no even na dollar ne wosoro kwa na market ne ye because this time market nye na ye tie no sa na tie because difference bi ama mu
no kreni ska semna ne ye how kese ska na wo Bank of Ghana 10 point something ba be kwa bonte na 13 cedis this year safer eba from kakra ba 19 something is it Sakwa 22 nti ama ye adwuma ne ye no aye den de ama obi ba o se yati ska so yati ne ma so ba be kono so na nti sa.
Well, those are comments for the Minister of Finance to consider. Let's do the text messages, and then we have an interview with Justice Acquah, who is going to give us an analysis of the NPP Congress, what happened there and what it means in public communication and political communication. Answer by you first. What are people saying?
From Fredchi, he says, the one playing the Seprewa Tremanting song has also died about 5 years ago. Life is short. From Nana Owusu, he says, RIP to Prof. John Atta Mills. The NDC should thank both Koko and Yudoho, who managed to save Asomdwe Park from its sorry state with support from Nanadu. I saw them today lined up enjoying the beautiful view of the park. Some of the shameless people who demonized the anniversary celebration were wearing dark shades. From Chizak, he says Atta Mills would not have revoked people's appointments. John Mahama, why have you added this to your legacy? From Francis Wahin, he says, I'm so sorry for the loss of our ex-president. My thoughts are with his family. Aram Francis says, either the roads are to be completed or commissioned by the end of 2028 and not 2026. From Suli Yakubu, he says, no 5 northern regions were mentioned. And lastly, from Abdul Majid, he says, good evening, Ghana. Official university graduates placed under the pending for consideration category by the previous government. Please help us to draw the attention of the current government to release our appointment letters. Over to you, Kobi.
All right, so Francis Boahin says, police must not be biased when it comes to electoral violence or protests. If not, the opposition parties will try as much as possible to get their own security. In fact, what happened during Ablekuma North rerun election really shamed Ghana worldwide. Now, Abdul Wahab says, what is our crime in northern region? There is not even a single road to rehabilitate or construct in the northern region. Why? Now, Master Planner Jr. from Kintampo says, the mighty minority are really making us so proud. The current number, that is 87, is a quality number and not just quantity that most of them can't speak in Parliament in line of their mandatory duty. We need to relegate all of them in the next Parliament. Ghanaians are watching closely. We will surely bounce back in 2028, inshallah. Okay. Now, Gastiman says, the intent and message from the minority was superb, but bad timing. I think our minority must be strategic in their approach so that their actions receive public sympathy. How many people heard about this important message today? If you have not reported it, Paul, these are leaders must research and act accordingly and stop useless actions. Regards to Dr. Bawumia. Now, Yao February says, the minority members were right to stage a walkout of Parliament because one of the NDC major campaigns against the MPP winning overwhelmingly was because of Galamsey menace. Also, the minority and the MPP did not recognize the rerun of the 19 polling stations at Ablekuma North constituency parliamentary election after the EC came to Parliament to confirm police protection for the remaining 3 polling stations. So if the election went on and there was a lot of violence attacks on the MPP members and the majority, and the government justified it, the NPP is right to stage a walkout of the mid-year budget review. Now, Francis Boahin says the budget anticipates a significant increase in market share, which seems unlikely based on current trends. And finally, Bennett Danso says, Paul, the finance minister lied about the prices of goods that he quoted in his mid-year budget this afternoon. A pack of Yaz sanitary pad has been 15 Ghana cedis since last year, but he lied that it was 25 Ghana cedis in January, but is now 15 Ghana cedis. Hashtag fact checked. Now back to you, Paul.
Okay, back to the show, and thank you very much for staying with us. Professor H.S. Sikanku is here. H has a new designation that I'll tell you about. He's now the acting dean, Faculty of Journalism and Media Studies, UNIMAC. He's an associate professor of political communication and journalism. So, Professor H.S. Sikanku, thank you very much for coming. Now, MPP Congress. In terms of the timing, doing it 7 months, 8 months after a heavy election defeat, was it too early or too late?
I think it was just about the right time, because if it was earlier, people would have felt as if they were in a rush. After every election, after every huge major political election, or even any endeavor at all, one of the things that is important is to do a review, is to do self-introspection. That is good corporate governance. And so it was important that this happened. And if that had happened too early in terms of a conference, then it would have been seen as they taking for granted whatever happened in 2024. But there was also the Microcue Committee, and they went in to do that kind of research to see why they lost. So I think that coming in after the Microcue Committee, the Council of Elders meeting, I think this was right about the good time. And I have to commend them, because if they had also waited later, then the divisions, the controversies, the visceral, antipathy that is in the party would fester or will deepen. And so I think this was really about the right time to bring everybody together to say, okay, do not lose hope. We can do something about this. But then at the same time also to say that it is about time we close ranks. So I think the timing was pretty good.
But is the division over because of the Congress? They are still fighting for flag bearership, leadership. So they are still fighting.
Yeah, they are still fighting. Well, I mean, that is very characteristic of the game of politics. And people would always say that, yes, the primaries are fair game. That is the right time to do the intra-party competition. But right after that, of course, everybody runs back to the center. So, the immediate and central implication of what has happened is that we are beginning to see the strengthening of the intra-party political system in Ghana as well. I've always believed, and the political scientists will say, that the health of a democracy is inextricably connected with the health of the political parties, because the democratic enterprise is built around the fulcrum of the political parties. And so the more there is intra-party democracy in the parties, the more there is participation in the parties in a very direct sense. And that was a major theme coming out of the Congress, the call for greater grassroots participation. The more there is accountability in the political parties in terms of who did what in the run-up to the election. And the more there is honesty and review in the party, the better this translates into the democracy that we have. Because if you don't do this at the party level, I mean, how are you going to do that when you get to the national stage? So yes, those divisions will be there, those factions will be there, and it is important for intra-party competition, intra-party democracy. So I don't think that it will go away completely. But then if you listen to Dr. Bawumia's speech, one of the things that he strategically did was to give a cue to that, to say that yes, we are going to have the competition, we are going to have all these factions, but it is important for us to come together to unite. It is important for us to do away with the acerbic language, the uncivil language, the intemperate language that has denigrated the quality of politics that we have, and that could also affect the party in the national or in the generals. So yes, the competition will be there, the debates will be there, but at least it was important for everybody to come together for the very first time after the election in a major or in a very big way to say that yes, there is hope, and there's a party that we have to build, and we got to move on.
Now, what they set out to achieve, or what they should have been achieving in terms of party reputation, did they get anything out of it?
I think they did, by and large. Because, Paul, the thing about these contests is that it was a very bruising election. This was not just any loss. I mean, to every extent and parameter, it was a very debilitating one. And so many political observers, even the Ghanaian public, were watching well, this is that bad. How are they going to regroup? How are they going to come back after this loss? I mean, if you watch the social media commentary, some people have said the party is finished and that it's going to take a very long time to get out of this. And indeed, I mean, it was a very major cataclysmic defeat. And so, in terms of the public imagery, in terms of what they wanted to communicate to get out of this, to see a political entity, and we know that the NDC had this themselves when they had the walks and they did other attempts after they lost in 2016. And so for a political entity, it was important for them to communicate that brand, to communicate that image, and to send out that message. And if you look at the planning of the event, I think across the broad swath of the Ghanaian commentariat or the Ghanaian public, a lot of people have said that, well, this was a very well-organized Congress. This was a very disciplined Congress. I mean, we are away with the violence, away with the beatings, away with the degeneration that often goes on in that event. And I think beyond the party, it was an exhibition of democracy in Africa, that we can do this in our own way. Remember, Paul, I mean, you and I did the primaries across the global perspective. Comparatively, we've covered these things internationally and globally. And this is a good advertisement for democracy in Africa. Because if you look at the primaries, which are very big in the US, in other places, last year, Good Evening Ghana, we were in Boston, in Chicago, in different places.
The Democratic primaries and the Republican.
And the Republican primary. And they practice the direct kind of primary, or the direct, what we call the direct democracy for some of them, where everybody has the opportunity to vote and all of that. And everybody across the world, you remember the Obama election, the Trump election, right from the primaries, not even the general election, it garners a lot of attention all over the world. And that is what has sold America to the rest of the world. That is why people will stay up at midnight to watch those debates. 17 people during the primaries on the same stage, I mean, having a go at each other, debating the future of their country, and citizens participating in the event. This is the beauty of what democracy is. And so I'm saying that it was an advertisement for the kind of robust or purest democracy that we are trying to build in this country. To see a political party go in there to conduct such an intra-party event without any, I mean, negative storylines coming out of it. Nobody was hurt, nothing. I think it was a good advertisement. And I had friends from the US in Ghana around about the same time, and they were watching it, and I mean, they had very glowing comments for this nation. And so I think that the image that is sent out there is a very good one for the strength of democracy in Africa.
Fantastic. So what about the speeches? Dr. Bawumia spoke.
Right.
First, let me come to the amendments. The amendments was an internal party matter. And then, producer, got us some videos from the event, if you have them, so that we can spice up our conversation. The amendments from is an internal party matter which the party needed to fix. Was that also a point of sale in terms of image?
I think it was, because if you look at some of the major, I mean, of course, there were a lot of it, some that had to do with party structures, party power, who holds power and who doesn't, some that have to do with the expansion of the voting, the officers, the polling station executives and others, the number of people who are able to participate, and of course the grand one that was coming out of it, which was that more people were going to have the chance to vote in the primary or not. If you look at each and every one of these amendments, even in terms of this saying that if you hold power, if your government is in power and you are a minister or you are...
That was a very big one.
That was a very big one.
1 year to the time you leave your ministerial position if you want to contest a parliamentary seat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's probably even a couple of months more than that. But
is it 18?
Yes, I think it's a bit more than that. But yes, you know, I think that was very important. So when you talk about the amendments and how that contributes to the public image of whether the party is serious about building itself, about whether it is serious about convincing Ghanaians that really we have learned our lessons, we have listened to you, and we are prepared to be honest, you see, to Ghanaians. You know, David Axelrod said one thing, that authenticity is the mother's milk of politics. And so you have to be able to convince the broad swath of Ghanaians that we have taken lessons from the past election, that we are ready to convince Ghanaians that we are the plausible alternative. And it starts in-house. Because if you get into government and you are a minister and you still hold a party position, The question is that it is a bit difficult because how much time do you have to even conduct government business? And when you go to the very basics of democracy, which is the concept of separation of powers and checks and balances, then there is a certain infusion of the party into the government. And so how are we going to delineate those differences? So I think that it was very good that the party began to show that they were prepared next time that we're in government, we are not going to cross those fissures. Because then you are not going to be able, in terms of accountability, to the lines to be blurred, right? So I think that was also a good one in terms of showcasing the strength or the rebranding or the review or the reformation or the reforms that were taking place. That was also a good one. When you talk about the expansion of people participating as well. You know, there's one thing that really stands out when it comes to the great democracies that we all want to follow, and it is about the purity of the system or the robustness of the system. When and we need to make those connections, because when you go back to the basics or the fundamentals of what this entire enterprise of democracy, of governance, of development is about, it is predicated on the Athenian or the Greco-Roman version of what democracy is, which is that at the heart of all of this is that there should be direct citizen participation, that the government must be for the people, of the people, and by the people. And so the more we move closer towards this purest form of democracy, the more we get citizens more involved in the business of politics. I believe that people will see a sense of ownership of politics. They will feel a sense of belonging in the business of politics. Because when you go to the other advanced democracies, remember in 2008 downwards, when we did the presidential elections in the US, we reported on this show, we talked about the caucuses, where people come together, citizens come to decide who their candidates are. And that is even before the general elections. And even beyond that, they don't only talk about the candidates, but they also get to vote on certain policy measures before it gets to the national stage. I mean, this is the kind of direct democracy that we all want to do. So the more they expand the college, the more and I believe the goal is to get people to get.
They said by 2028 they want to make it like the American one, where every party member in good standing can vote. But Edie sent me a text. It says that to contest as an NPP presidential candidate under the new rules, one has to resign from his position, minister or CEO, 24 months before the general election. But to contest as a parliamentary candidate, one has to resign 12 months before the general election.
Exactly. So yeah, I knew it was a bit more than that. So 24 months. I mean, that's a clear, 2 clear years, I believe, you know, before the real elections take place. So these are big decisions that people who want to contest have to take. I mean, do I keep the pecs of governance to continue being a minister, or do I really want to get out of it and go and stand? And I believe when that happens, the whole idea of state party resources being used during party primaries and all of that will be done away with. People will not use or take advantage of the national office in order to pursue their own personal partisan goals. And it gives them a lot of ample time to actually sit and then draft policies that would help build this nation. So I think it's a very, very good policy that they came up with in terms of that clear distinction between party and the government. Let's
talk about Dr. Bawumia's speech.
Right.
What do you make of it?
I think it was a very, very significant speech. This was the presidential candidate or the flag bearer of the party coming out of an electoral loss. And the party definitely is looking up to him to see what he's going to say. I mean, he had to go out there and concede, you know, on that very day. And now the party is trying to rebuild. For one reason or the other, President Kufuor was not there. Former President Akufo-Addo was also not there. I mean, to all intents and purposes, he was the next senior-most person in the party in terms of the presidency, presence over there. It was very important that he communicated or he signaled a certain atmosphere or had a certain tone when he gave that speech. And many people were looking at him to see if he was going to achieve this. I think that he comprehensively dealt with it and achieved that purpose. when I did the analysis of the speech, I came up with about 4 or 5 different themes that were embedded in the speech. One was the theme of unity. The other one was in terms of lessons learned from the elections. Discipline was a big part of his speech. He also talked about the national interest, and he tried to encourage party people to remain resolute and try to give them hope so that they could come back another time. It was very important that he signaled or he emphasized on these themes in terms of unity, because we all know that once an election is over, there is the propensity for there to be a lot of finger pointing, a lot of pity partying, and a lot of blame game going around. And so he took advantage of this and sent a very clear message that the people or the party needed to come together, that they needed to unite. He even had to go as far back as touching on the roots of the NPP and talking about the fact that it was an amalgamation of different diverse entities within the party, the Gashi Former P, the Anglo Youth, the Northern People's Party, the Muslim Association, and all of that, to demonstrate that this is who we were. And that tied in very neatly with the theme of the Congress, which is going back to our values or the roots of the party. And so he touched on all these symbols or signifiers of unity, of diversity, despite that diversity in unity or unity in diversity. He made sure that he emphasized the need for them to come together. And of course, we do know that he's a potential candidate, but he did not seek to project himself in that speech. He kind of backgrounded that and took on a more statesman-like, a more elderly party elder figure or disposition within the party. So I think that was a very good theme within that particular speech. When you go to the next theme, which is the lessons learned, you know what they say in politics, that we do not vote in parties, we vote out parties. And so the thing is that Ghanaians are looking at you to see if you have changed enough, whether you have reformed enough, whether you have accepted enough. You know, if there is any advice that should go out there, when we do, and of course, we do have periodic research that goes on every now and again. When we did the post-election research, one of the major things that we found, as far as the NPP was concerned, was that Ghanaians were very, very disappointed, or they talked so much about the lack of acceptance for the challenges or some of the failings that took place within the party. And so that was the public perception research. We did another textual analytic research on social media and using other texts. And one of the major narratives that we got from that textual analysis was that the MPP has to apologize for their time in governance and for some of those failings. And so it was important that the vice president heeded to this particular narrative by talking about the fact that the party needs to demonstrate that they had learned lessons from their previous time in governance. And he did that, and I was very happy that he touched on that. The next theme is that of discipline. This was a very important theme in order to hold the party together, because there is always the potential in every competitive election or primary for a certain level of disintegration or factionalism within the party. And this is important because if this is not measured, if this is not, controlled in a particular way, it could lead to very deep-seated divisions. Some of them are irreparable and very contextual factions within the party that could affect them in the general elections. And so the fact that the former vice president called for an aura of discipline within the party was a very important one in order to keep everybody in line and in check. And in this case, he called on the party leadership to make sure that they would crack the whip when it's very necessary. But Paul, I'll talk about the very last thing, which is very, very important as far as the image and the persona of Dr. Bawumia is concerned. And that is when he sought to justify why he gave that very, very critical concession speech during the election period, which resonated globally, and he was acclaimed all across the Nigerians couldn't have enough of it. They used that to show how Ghana had grown or matured in the democracy. But you'd realize that there were other competing or contesting narratives which said that it was this early concession
that cost the parliamentary seats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he did
criticized Bawumia for that if he didn't concede early, Ablekuma North would have been won, Domeko Abenya would have been won. They said that.
Yes. And so what he did in that speech was to address that particular narrative that was beginning to come. And he talked about the national interest. And that when he did that, when he conceded, he did that for the national interest. And he used that to frame his political identity in terms of a nationalist leader. And he said that he was guided by the national interest at all particular times. And if I remember correctly, he said that what is good for the nation is good for the NPP. And so he stood out his political persona in that particular manner as somebody who is concerned about the nation first. And I believe that that was something that should really settle a lot of nerves within the party, but also externally, it was important that he demonstrated that kind of nationalistic image that is very relevant or important for our nation as we move forward, because we do want leaders who pay attention to the nation's interests and not selfish, parochial, partisan interests, which does not inure to the advancement or the development of our nation.
That's very, very interesting. Are you getting text messages on this commentary? Let's hear some of it so that you can deal with the questions if there are any. Thank you very much for staying with us on Good Evening Ghana. It's always live on Metro TV. Which shall I start with? Kobe, give us your text.
All right. So Saeed Countryman says the fallouts from the 2025 National Annual Delegates Conference all point to the resurgence of the true NPP spirit and the coming together of a house only a few months ago vainly said to be caving in. The overarching desire to rebuild this party and to put the obvious leader in position to form government in 2029 was in full swing. The planning was top-notch and the attendance overwhelming. The new patriotic party is awake. Now, Yao Kantata says, NPP has nothing to apologize. Why should we apologize to Ghanaians for giving them free SHS, roads, Agenda 111, mobile money interoperability, factories, and other infrastructural development? We must rather call for unity in the party and focus on the party because there are real voters. Now finally, Ryan Salisu says, greetings Paul, it's past midnight here in Vienna, Austria as usual. Ghanaians must realize that John Dramani Mahama has nothing to lose as he will not be on any ballot paper again. It's not surprising that he's not commented on any of the violence that has engulfed the country. What do you have for us, Anzaba?
Okay, thank you, Paul. Sorry, thank you. From Jacoby, he says, Paul, listening to Prof. Sikanko, I can deduce that you go a long length to make sure that the content of your program is very rich in information. You research, learn, and travel just to bring the best of everything to this prestigious program. And it lets us see how much you cherish your viewers. Thank you, Paul. I know you will become a doc soon. Kudos to your intelligent self, say good evening to Dr. Brian Echampo. From Schiffman, Osei, the NPP conference was very well organized, devoid of violence, and is only the NDC I would speak on because theirs didn't see the light of day. The elephant shall bounce back stronger. Regards to all the NPP media patriots. From Sandy, we are happy with what Mahama is doing in this economy, and that is why we are silent. Our silence means that we comply and accept his rulership. NPP Ejay Kojo says, are you airing on any radio station? From King Faisal, he says, never get tired of listening to Dr. Oku wisdom. Abna Gifty says, Paul, please, this time around, NPP should elect executives that are very vocal and intelligent, not the ones that shy away from the media. Kojo Opon Nkrumah will be a good general secretary. Lastly, from Sandy again, she said, compare your government of 8 years to Mahama's 7 months. The economy is silent. Over to you, Paul.
Wow, interesting. Prof, what's your concluding remarks on this and how our politics grows? What's the concluding remark?
Yes, so I believe that whatever happened broadened the frontiers of democracy within our country. I believe that as we grow as a political party, one of the beautiful things is to begin to see a politics or a democracy that is not based on violence, that is not based on attacks, that is not based on punches or fist fights, but a politics in which the contests that are held are based on policy, are based on ideas, and are based on discourse. That is the only way that we can move ahead. And so it's very sad to see sometimes, you've got a by-election that we recently had, there was some specter of violence in it, and even in the 2024 elections that we had, some of the scenes that were coming out were really gory, they were really sad. I hope that as we move ahead to entrench democracy and advertise it, we'll be building our ideas more on ideas, our politics more on ideas rather than on violence, because democracy is a marketplace of ideas, so much so that people would be more interested or would be more attracted to the business of politics. And I remember in 2018, you were present at an event that we had after I launched my book, The Primary Contenders. And we talked about the primary system in the country. We did a historical narrative of it and how we can deepen and entrench party politics or decentralized politics, even at the local level. So hopefully these conversations will continue in terms of decentralizing our politics, in terms of making our politics more direct, and in terms of making our politics more representative, so that just like the advanced democracies, when they are having any of these events, young people can attend it. It's so beautiful when people are, the idea of political culture or political socialization, the idea of civics, building a good civics culture in this country. I think that is the next step, that we make our democracy so attractive that the young people are more civic-minded, or they are more politically cultured, they're more politically socialized to be a part of the politics, so make their voices heard, that at the city council meetings, at the local level elections, all of us will go together and make sure that our voices are heard, that we contribute in a very participative way to the direction and the growth of our country. And all of that is hinged on the nature of the party politics that we have at the local level.
Master Planner Junior Kintampos writes and says, "The Master Planner, how are you? I owe you a visit and a phone call, don't I?" He says, "Prof has really made my night. Great analysis. God bless you, Mr. Paul, for bringing in such a fantastic mind to share with us, Master Planner Junior." In view of what Prof is saying, let me rush to the touch screen and read this article that was written by somebody. It's for the benefit of MPP people. You should look at it and listen to it. I'm going to read it on the touch screen. It's very interesting, Prof. Yes, you might want to see it as well. So it's written by J.A. Saba, political observer, voice of national conscience. It says, "How Ghana's media is captured and why it may never recover." It says, "There was a time Ghana's press backed and bite. It was the age of Kweku Baako Jr., Kofi Kumsin, and Professor P.A.V. Ansah, towering voices who turned journalism into a civic shield against military boots and party brutality. Their courage, in alliance with civil society, exposed the AFRC and PNDC human rights abuses. They stripped the PNDC of its propaganda cloak and ushered in the dawn of constitutional democracy. But history took a sharp turn. After the NDC's 2000 electoral defeat, they did not sulk. They strategized. They saw clearly what the MPP failed to grasp. In a democracy, the airwaves are the new arsenal. While the MPP basked in its early 2000s victory, drunk on constitutional legitimacy, the NDC went to work. Quietly, they began recruiting media minds, sponsoring media startups, buying airtime, building alliances. They knew what they were doing. By 2012, media houses weren't just covering politics. Many had merged ideologically with it. Today, the numbers are staggering. Out of 549 active licensed FM stations in Ghana, over 410 are NDC owned or NDC aligned. Out of 135 active TV stations, more than 120 lean towards the NDC orbit. And the biggest players, multimedia, the group of Joy FM, Joy News, Adom FM, and Media General, TV3, Onua TV, etc., alone command over 50% of national listenership and viewership. Both have gone politically green. In contrast, the MPP, rigid, risk-averse, and almost aristocratically indifferent, failed to adapt. They assumed that good governance alone would win the media's affection. Worse, under Akufo-Addo, they reportedly refused to play financial football with key media houses, choosing austerity over patronage. That choice, while morally commendable, came at a political cost. The media turned from disinterested observers into hostile prosecutors. From 2021 to 2024, mainstream media outlets opened unrelenting fire on Akufo-Addo's regime, often unfairly, sometimes maliciously, but always lethally. The MPP walked into an ambush they didn't even know how they had been set. When the dust cleared in 2024, the party has suffered one of its most humiliating defeats in history. Some party voices now conveniently blame Dr. Bawumia, but the true betrayal came from a media landscape that the party ignored, misread, and lost. The silence of that media today under John Mahama's renewed presidency is deafening. Take the CJ Tokono assault, for instance, a clear constitutional crisis, yet no media of national repute has mounted editorial resistance. There are no front page screams, no investigative documentaries, no balanced debate. What we hear instead is prosecution by broadcast, mostly aimed at the judiciary while shielding the executive. There is no longer a media ecosystem. It's a captured communications infrastructure, weaponized, sanitized, and embedded in power. When journalists become presidential appointees, when editorial lines sound like cabinet scripts, the republic is no longer guarded. It is choreographed. The MPP's sin wasn't only arrogance, it was lethargy in a high-speed political war. They underestimated the enemy, they overestimated their moral credit, and they forgot the simplest law in politics. You don't win hearts or elections with silence. The press once held the sword of truth. Today, many hold the president's briefcase. Ghana's media, if you ask, may never rise to the fourth estate realm again. Very interesting, very partisan, and very touchy. We'll leave it with you for now, and then we can do food for thought unless Prof wants to comment one or two on such an article. It's very partisan. It says that the NDC went underneath and organized the media and sort of got them on their side, majority of media, and the MPP didn't do that. Under an Akufo-Addo presidency, who was himself an owner of a newspaper, The Statesman, that's surprising, but it looks like it's true to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, the media is the bedrock or the backbone of any credible democracy. And so at any point in time, irrespective of which party or which political entity is in power, the role of the media does not change. In our journalism schools, we teach our students to go out there. At Unimac, for instance, we are training a new cadre of journalists who will be modern, who will be professional, who will be independent, and who will not be biased in their reportage of the business of the day. Because, as Pulitzer said, as our democracy, as our press goes, or as our media goes, so goes our nation. And it was one American, Walter Lippmann, who said that was I to have the choice to choose a society in which there were newspapers without a government or a government without newspapers, I would not hesitate to choose the former, which is to have newspapers without a government, because he believed that the pages of the newspaper or the media were a communal page where people came together to air their views about the problems in their society, that the press played a certain role in terms of representative democracy, and that they were a voice for the voiceless, that they comforted the afflicted and afflicted the comforted. And so that very, sanguine role of the press in a democracy is very, very important, irrespective of which government is in power, in terms of investigation, which he talked about, in terms of balanced debates, in terms of editorial powers to make sure that they were not just being stenographers or they were not just being PR machinery for the government, but that they were playing a very critical, introspective, and analytic role as far as the conduct of a government is concerned. So, to the extent that this time-worn responsibility of the press is played out, irrespective of which government is in power, the better for all of us. Because essentially, if this role is not played, then we will all be at the beck and call of the Leviathan or of the elitist or top hierarchy in terms of governance. And I do not think that that is the kind of society that we want to build.
Okay, so do you have some more text messages so we can wrap up this interesting media conversation? We should be having this in the classroom before students so they can participate well. Anziba, what are people saying?
Okay, Emmanuel says Prof's delivery is top notch. From Yao February, he says well spoken. Augustine says our politics is not interesting anymore. Mani Kaba says amazing delivery by Prof. Lastly, from Hussein Gunu, he says the elephant has awakened, is alive and ready to be in everyone's home for a good reason. This is the best conference I've ever witnessed from any political party in Ghana. The leader of the NPP has emerged, which is Dr. Bawumia. Let's win together. Over to you, Kobi.
All right, so Master Planner Junior says, policy analyst. After the conference on Saturday, NPP looks formidable and attractive. All those who engage in insults and attacks against other candidates should desist from that. We should not allow the NDC to set agenda for us to fight among ourselves. Together, we can win the 2028 elections, inshallah. Eli Obama from Tamale says, good evening, Mr. Paul. The NPP National Delegates Conference was an outstanding event, ranking among the best conferences in our recent history. From the polling station level to the national level, everyone was delighted and confident that the new patriotic party will emerge more robust and recapture the power in the 2028 general election. Motion 2, Article 3.7, is a significant amendment incorporated into the Constitution, vesting the party with the authority to recommend suspension of a member or office holder pending disciplinary action. This amendment will enable the party to deal with misconduct expeditiously. Now back to you, Paul.
All right, it's 11 o'clock. You have the last word, please.
Yeah, so Paul, I just wanted to say that for all those, I mean, great article, we can always critique it and look at the pros and the cons. But I just wanted to say that for all the vibrant and passionate youth who want to make sure that they want to be part of the revolution or the transformation of our media landscape, the University of Media Arts and Communication, UNIMAC, is always a good place to come and
to study.
Yes, and our faculty, the Faculty of Journalism and Media Studies, FOJAMS, is a very vibrant incubator where we are trying to give people the necessary skills and critical thinking knowledge or abilities that they need in order to make sure that the media plays that performative role in our democracy.
Okay. Thank you very much, viewers, for watching. It's a very busy Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday, it's a weekend. If you drink, please don't drive. Let's play football at the University of Ghana behind Legon Hall and XB on Saturday morning. See you. Good night.